Mayor, how's it going?
Not too bad. I believe we're alive. We had a little technical thing here, so I'm just making sure that we're all set. Thank you for
Awesome.
being on the show today. I
Of
appreciate it.
course.
I
Glad to
saw
do
you
it.
repping the Columbus Blue Jacket shirt there just a moment ago.
Yeah, yeah. Been doing that for a few days with the the sadness of last week.
Oh, absolutely. It's a tragedy, and I know that I think the interesting thing about that is everybody going to the arena and visiting it just to pay their respects, and that it's just such a
Hmm.
tragic event.
Hmm.
And there's no
Terrible.
real way to transition from that to anything else, but so we'll go ahead. I do appreciate you being on the show today.
Of course.
Everybody who is watching, this is Danny O'Connor, the Franklin County Recorder, and he's been on the show a number of times in the past, a good friend for a long time. And I'm happy you're here because I know we've got a lot of cool things to talk about. But to kind of update what does a Franklin County Recorder actually do before we get into the really nitty-gritty questions of the day.
Yeah, so the recorder, so I'm an elected official, and my office oversees the county recorder's office and the document imaging center. And our office, the basic thing that we do is we are in charge of recording, preserving, and protecting public records related to real and personal property. And the reason that this exists is so people's property interests can be safeguarded and the records can be easily retrieved, which is really important with the type of real estate market that we have here in Franklin County, with the type of growth that we have here. But one thing that we're cognizant of is, how hard people work a lot of times to buy that first home or to buy that second home. And we want to make sure that everything we do is done so that it's as easy as possible for folks to engage in those transactions. So all your mortgages, all your deeds to the land that you might own, those releases of mortgages when you pay them off, those are stored in our office, and we transfer them over when need be for those transactions to occur in as easy of a manner as possible.
Well, I think it's interesting because of how important that is. I mean, obviously, we deal with the recorder's office on a number of different levels, both in private
Yep.
and, commercial properties. But in a day and age where everybody seems to be wanting to scam somebody else, sometimes those
Yeah.
documents are the only key to make sure people, you know, verify that that's their property and nobody's getting swindled and things like that. So,
Yep. Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
what are some of the most common questions that you guys get about that aspect of things?
Well, you just alluded to one. I mean, fraud is always a huge concern of ours. And what we encourage folks to do is to take things into their own hands a little bit. On our website, you can opt in to receive alerts anytime there's a transaction related to your property. So if you go to www.recorder.franklincounty.ohio.gov, you can see the opt-in opportunity so that if your address is 1 Main Street, Reynoldsburg, Ohio, put in that information, and anytime there's some type of transaction with your property, you'll get notified. So if you're on vacation or you're spending a few days at the tomato festival in Reynoldsburg and you're not paying attention to your computer or stuff, you'll get notified that you had a transaction occur on your property. And if you had nothing to do with that, that's a time to check on that. But the most common question beyond that is who we are and what we do. We're a very administrative government office, so people don't hear about us as much as they might hear about the legislature or other governmental agencies. And our second most common question is the type of documents recorded, which I alluded to earlier. The mortgage, the deeds, the transfer when a property is sold, and then a number of other legal or property related documents such as liens, plats, powers of attorney documents, trust documents, and DD 214 military discharge forms, which we utilize to create veteran ID cards for folks who've served our country.
Well, you kind of jumped on one of those questions about the veteran services. So I know that's, the ID card is a huge thing that your office is kind of taking a lead on in that. So can you tell us a little bit more about that and, what it can be used for, and I guess probably honestly what it can't be used for anymore?
Yeah, so we are a really, really convenient place for veterans to get an ID card because a lot of times we have the DD 214 discharge forms on our in our database, and so veterans are able to record those forms with our office for free, and they can have a second location where those documents are kept safe, and then they can get a veteran issued ID card, and they can use that ID card for things like obtaining discounts. It's helpful for a number of different things. One thing you can't use it for is you can't use it to vote. You could use it to vote up until 2022, and then that our legislature removed the ID card from being a way that you could vote. So one thing I tell folks, is to make sure that they know they can't use that ID card because I have a lot of family who've served our country in different branches, different wars, different periods of service, and they're very proud of that service. And obviously in Franklin County, we have a lot of folks who've served our country in a very proud way, and they might want to use that ID card as a form of voter ID, but they can't do that anymore. So, making sure that they know that is something that's important to us.
So I hopefully one day the legislature will get their wits about them again and bring that
Yeah,
as an option back, because I don't think that too many people can disagree with that one, especially
yeah, it
considering
doesn't make much sense, and we'd
yeah.
hoped that folks would recognize that that was kind of goofy, but we haven't had any luck there.
Well, that's not the only thing, but we'll save that for some other kind of conversation. So if somebody wants to get in contact with your office, I know how to do it. Our staff here knows because we do on a regular basis. But if somebody wants to give you a contact other than your website, is there email? Is there phone? What are the best options?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the best thing to do is call our customer service desk. We have a number of professionals there who have been serving our county for a long time. Some people decades, and they do a fantastic job of working with folks who engage our office professionally. If they're lawyers, title attorneys, real estate agents, a whole host of different professions. But if you're someone who is just a citizen and you want to engage our office as you have a right to do as a taxpayer, you can call 614-525-3930 between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. And we have real people who answer the phones. We try not to put people on a recorded line or on hold for very long. And usually you're going to talk to someone really quickly who knows how to help you. We had a phone call yesterday with someone who reached out, had some questions about some documents that they were recording, and they called me, and I said, okay, let's talk to our front staff and make sure that you get the help that you need. But you should also check out our website at recorder.franklincountyohio.gov. That has helpful information on preparing documents for recording, making sure that your property documents are in order when planning for the future. There's a way to calculate fees that might be associated with recording. So recorder.franklincountyohio.gov is really helpful. And then our customer service desk at 614-525-3930.
It's a great service, and again, it's one of those things where I don't think people need it until they need it, and then
Yeah,
that's usually the way that type of thing goes. But that's a lot of
yep,
local government in general.
that's
Uh,
right.
so I always ask everybody, what's the best part of your job? But before we get to that one, I just want to, you've obviously run for office a number of times, so have I. One of the questions that I most commonly get, especially let's say the last 6 weeks or so, is what's changed in like how people run and what the tenor is, the venom at times, and the discourse that's out there. Have you noticed changes in over the years as far as when people ask you questions about your office or your campaign? I'm not trying to get too political, but just
Yeah.
things are different now. Or I mean, is that a fair statement to say that those kind of
Yeah,
things?
I think so. One thing that I always say is there's no Democratic or Republican way to run a recorder's office. There are some things that I think are reflective of different values that folks might have in the way that they operate that office, but generally recording a document is done in a ministerial way and without partisanship. One thing that I have noticed is, with my office, I have a number of folks who are the opposite party of me who say, hey, we really are supporting you this election. We appreciate what you're doing. We appreciate the office that you run. And so it's my hope that, and I think you probably run into this as mayor, that when you do a good job like you do, and like we do, that you're going to get folks who, um, you know, are willing to support you and look past maybe a different partisan affiliation. And I think that's one thing that I love about our job is that it does transcend partisanship, Congress, Senate, governor, legislature, stuff like that. It does get pretty vitriolic and pretty nasty, depending on, what your party is and who you're talking to. And that's really, really unfortunate. And granted, the stakes of elections are high. They've always been high,
Yeah.
but they feel especially high right now. But that doesn't, I think, mean that we should, not be willing to talk to people in different parties and not be able to have a civil conversation about the best way to secure our economic future, about the best way to secure civil rights, about the best way to function as a country. So I do think the tenor of things has gotten worse. I think that, we see a lot of folks who wouldn't vote for their own sibling if they were a different party now. And that's unfortunate because, I've met a lot of high character human beings who are Republicans. I'm a Democrat. My wife is a Republican, and I think very highly of her, obviously. And then I've met some people who are Democrats who I wouldn't want to spend any time with. So I don't think partisanship is the determinant factor of the quality of a human being. And I think a lot of people allow that to be the prominent factor, and that's too bad.
No, I agree. And I think that's one thing that I've always admired about you is that they're really like if you and I are walking down the street, no one's going to know that either one of us are a particular party. When the
Yeah,
people come and ask us for help or questions, it's not, I'm not doing an ID check or a political check on things. And
no,
I know that you don't do that either. So I do appreciate it.
no,
Now,
absolutely not.
with all that being said, what is the best part of your job? I usually the answers are always kind of similar in this one, but there's always some a little nuance to it. So what's your
Yeah.
best part of the job?
You know, our staff is so fantastic and they are so committed to serving the people of Franklin County. It really is surreal sometimes how good of a job they do, how competent they are, how professional they are. And, it's festival season right now. So I'll spend time at different, parish festivals or, different street festivals and different types of events. And I have a lot of folks who've come up to me over the course of this summer, especially. And I was telling my staff the other day, like 4 or 5 straight events where someone's come up to me and said, Danny, your staff does a really, really great job. And that's something that I love to hear because I'm so proud of my staff. I'm proud of, the way that we work all in the same way, rowing in the same direction. In a nuanced way, it's really fantastic to hear from real estate professionals, but also, genealogists who spend time utilizing our website to search for different things, to search for, who owned this property at this time, who, what happened to them, what was their middle initial, because that could help them with some type of search. And then our veterans, when a spouse who served our country might pass away, we might have their remaining spouse, their remaining wife or husband, reach out to our office for veterans documents that can help with some things related to healthcare, things related to a pension. But beyond that, looking at some of our veterans records and seeing the different areas that folks served in, where they served, we have an incredible collection of discharge documents of Franklin County veterans who served in the Spanish American War, where they're all handwritten with calligraphy. And that may be because it was a wide-ranging conflict and there were fewer members of our armed service who were actually deployed in that theater. But stuff like that's very, very unique. So if you're a nerd or a former teacher like you are, Joe, I'm the nerd here. You're the former teacher. Our office is a treasure trove of information, and our properties, our records go back to the founding of the great state of Ohio, 1803, and it's just fantastic to look and see, where did Coach Hayes live?
Yeah.
Where did this famous person live? So it's really, really neat that way. And it's something that we like. And we just love being a reliable and helpful resource for both the professionals who use our office on an hourly basis, but also, citizens who want to, one time utilize our office for, a will, a trust, a pension issue that they're having.
No, absolutely. Well, I've got two events that are coming up here in Reynoldsburg that I'd love to see you at. First one is on September 14th, Blues and Brews, correct? Yep, September, not 13th.
Whatever Friday is.
Yeah, September 13th. That's the Blues and Brews. It's a really tough job for you. I mean, you come in, listen to some good jazz music, enjoy a couple of beverages. It's again, real tough job at that one. But then we also have our big Diwali festival in October, which I'll make sure to get you some information about there. It's if you remember Councilman Paccarel, the first Nepali elected official, he and I and about 10,000 of our closest friends are going to be hanging out at Civic Park and enjoying that day as well. So love
That'll
to
be
have you down
incredible.
there for that.
Yeah, that'll
Any
be
questions? Yep. Oh, got a couple of questions.
We did get a question. Well, we have two actually. One is, what are your goals 3 to 5 years from now?
My goals 3 to 5 years from now, I hope to be one of the best youth sports coaches in Central Ohio. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. My 3-year-old started preschool yesterday, so I'm finally coming out of my shell emotionally today to get back to normal. But continuing to run a great office, continuing to serve in this county where we have just a huge volume of real estate transactions. We've all seen the news and read the articles in the Dispatch that this is the fastest growing, hottest real estate market in the country. Well, somebody's got to be there to process those transactions, and that's something that we do. We make sure that we operate on what's called a same day basis, where if a document is recorded with us, it's publicly viewable in the same day. Right now, that time turnaround is about 0.08 days. So given the volume of documents that we have, having about a half an hour to an hour of turnaround time is something that we're really proud of. So just continuing to maintain that level of excellence, and then, having Friday night movie nights with the kids and sports, and, having fun raising a family.
Well, I think the recorder's job is probably going to be easier than youth coaching. Just throwing that out there for you right now.
I would 100% agree with that. Absolutely.
All right. Do anything else?
So we have one last question. It says, last week, the Franklin County Treasurer said her staff was the best. So which is it, yours or hers? Be honest.
Well, I think that's all about the eye of the beholder. I took office, I think 8 months before the treasurer did, because of the revolving schedule with treasurers. So I have an 8-month head start on her. So I think we're probably 8 months better.
There we go. That is a great answer. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Give my best to your family, and hope to see you soon.
Same to you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
All right, everybody. Again, my friend Danny O'Connor, Franklin County Recorder, all sorts of great information. If you didn't have it, make sure you go ahead and go back and rewind it and all of that other stuff. You're more than welcome to stay on for the rest of the show, but you're busy, and if you've got other things to do, by all means, go ahead and get back to work helping the people of Columbus.
I'll bounce, and I'll hopefully see you at Blues and Brews in a few weeks.
Sounds good. All right.
All right. Thanks, Mayor. Bye.
All right, so just kind of moving on to other things. Obviously, we have our Reynoldsburg City Schools levy. Always talking about that to make sure we get some good information out there. There was a big town hall last week, so hopefully you had a chance to listen to that. I can give you very basic information, but if you want more specifics, there are a couple of public events coming up. There is one on September 23rd, but the details haven't been ironed out yet. But the big one is going to be October 3rd. You got 2 events. You've got the superintendent and the treasurer will be at Raider Nutrition from 9 to 11, great local business. And then they'll follow that up at the Chamber of Commerce lunch from 11:30 to 1 o'clock on October 3rd. And then they'll be at the Reynoldsburg Senior Center on October 17th from 11:30 to 12:30, which is, again, another thing out there. As you know, I've been putting a couple of things out there as far as apartments. Everybody always has a concern. Hey, do apartments actually pay anything? So Slate Ridge Commons, which has 170 units, again, right off Slate Ridge Boulevard, they pay $184,714.87 for their school taxes. And that breaks down to about $1,086.55 per unit. So again, for an apartment complex, that is something that is a pretty, substantial amount of money. So they do indeed pay property taxes into it. It's just the check is written by a different person. But if you want more information, you have a couple of great options. You can talk to a board member. You can reach out to the school district, or if you just don't want to do either of those things, but still want to get some info, you can go to the Reynoldsburg City Schools webpage. That is probably the best one to go and take a look at that, so you can get all of that updated information. I'm sure it will be a topic of conversation at the Reynoldsburg Education Foundation Gala, which is on Thursday, September 19th, so just a couple of weeks from now. That'll be at 1883 locale. There's going to be a silent auction of all sorts of cool bids, student art sale. Again, early pricing, $55 between now and that day, $60 the day of, and $75 at the door. So a lot of cool things going on with that. So August is kind of an interesting month for us. There's no council meeting. So basically we get all of these different things done, but council is back. They're going to be back on Monday night next week. So the agenda, for those of you that are interested, the agenda is typically published the Friday before council meetings are there. If you're interested, you can actually email our clerk of council and you can have that agenda sent to you via email when that goes out. There's a number of people that actually do that just to kind of keep an eye on what's going on in the city. There's a couple things in there that are there, but the big one that I want to talk about a little bit is the addition of some traffic monitoring devices. So in the next couple of weeks, you're going to hear a little bit more about some different traffic policies that the city is going to start putting in play. We all know that no one pays attention to stop signs and red lights are mostly optional at this point, but there's a lot of speeding in neighborhoods. And one of the things that we need to start doing is continuing to find better ways to collect data and then use enforcement techniques in there, and then have that data that if that road needs speed bumps or speed modification devices, that we have those options. So we're going to be using a little bit of America Recovers Act dollars to buy some actual speed monitoring devices on some of the roads that the Reynoldsburg Police Department has determined are the absolute most busy roads. So you'll see them coming up in a little bit, but they're going to be out on some of the roads. If they imagine any road that is a relative straightaway, probably going to have something there. But these are going to be a little bit different. We do that now, but we move them also all the way throughout the city to gather data. These are actually going to be, I don't want to call them permanent, but they are much more permanent than the ones we've been using. So you're going to see them and they're going to stay in these areas for a while, and they're going to continue to collect data, and then that will help us refine some things. So let's say you live on a random street and the data supports the fact that there are so many cars, and of those cars, so many of them are speeding. Then all of a sudden that will bump you to a category where actually we will start then considering some of the other speed modification devices like speed bumps and things like that. Stop signs are going to be there as well. We're going to work on some things with that. But those are some of the things that we're going to do to kind of highlight some of these more busy streets all the way around. But again, the rest of that will be out on Friday. I have my next walk and talk next week. That would be September 11th. We're going to start at 6:30. It's going to be, where do I have it? I'm going to start around Roundelay and Pryor, so not too far from City Hall. So come and walk with me. I'll pick up some trash and then you can talk with me. It seems our after work shifts are a little bit easier for people to want to kind of come out. We've had a better turnout on those days. But don't worry, I'm not going to abandon the Saturdays, things like that, but there's some Saturdays coming up. We've got a couple of other ones. Woolham, Broadwin, Kingsley, and Tomahawk Trail are scheduled for the rest of this year. I figured I'd schedule them through October, never knowing what weather is going to be like. But if it looks like we're getting good turnout and people are interested, definitely pick this back up in the spring when it gets a little bit warmer. We do have a couple of updates on Wagner Road. We've got a new traffic pattern coming, as we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. The big one that I'm going to put up there is right here. We know that probably by October 1st, the bridge at Main and Wagner is going to be closed in all directions. Now, you will have north and southbound access the rest of the way from Broad Street all the way to the VFW, basically. And then from Wagner on Main Street, you can go to the gas station or the shopping center. But anything beyond that, you'll have to go all the way around in a different angle. So the traffic is going to open up a little bit while that bridge work is done. It's going to take about 60 days. And during that time, we're going to kind of rethink everything for the next step. So when that bridge is complete and we have to go back to a different traffic pattern, we're going to reevaluate where we put the detour sign. Are we going to keep it where it's at, which is at Rodabaugh? Are we going to make some adjustments for some of the courts that are kind of there that are outside of the work zone, but aren't necessarily convenient for people to, given the traffic and everything that's around there. So we are going to look at that, but we have to have those conversations with the police department, the fire department, and our traffic people, because safety is the number one priority. But we are going to evaluate that and see if any changes can be made to kind of alleviate some of those things. As far as the rest of our utilities, around the Main Street and Wagner area, what you're probably seeing is a lot of utility work. They're on the AEP poles. The new ones are set, and basically what you're seeing is the transfer of your AT&T Spectrum, those types of things. They're being moved from the old poles to the new poles. So you're going to see that over the next couple of weeks. AEP is going to continue then moving all the way down. Columbia Gas is continuing to work as always on the way. I think they're around 30%, 35% done at this point. We'll get the most recent update at our meeting tomorrow. Any questions about Wagner Road? A couple of other things. When we do go to the north and south, when the bridge closes, we are going to be putting some asphalt and concrete down in some of the areas to kind of even it out, so you're not having as many bumps all the way across. But that'll be done pretty much right around the same time that the bridge gets closed. All of this is going to be put out as soon as we have a much more definitive date. Right now, we don't know exactly when it's going to be. We just know that it will be no later than October 1st. But we'll definitely give you at least a couple of days notice, hopefully at least a week when it's all said and done. But if you have any questions, feel free and send an email out to us. Also got a lot of questions about the CODA Link to Us levy that's coming up. So let's kind of break a few things down because nothing's more fun than talking about sales tax. So one of the things that's coming up is Ohio has a statewide sales tax of 5.75%. So that is statewide. That's not going anywhere anytime soon. And none of that is coming to us, the city. Licking County has a 1.5% sales tax on top of that. So that's Licking County. Now, Dakota has a sales tax at 0.5% already in existence right now. So that brings the Licking County share right now to 7.75%. So if this proposal passes for the increase, that would mean that Licking County would pay 8.25%. If it passes and you live in Franklin County, then your rate is going to be 8%. So it's about a 0.25% difference. And half of that is not going to be new. That 0.5% is actually going to be renewal based on funds that are going to be expiring in 2026, or 0.25% of it is going to be expiring. Now, all of that says, yes, it's going to be more expensive, and Licking County is going to have that extra one, but not because of the CODA issue necessarily. It's because Licking County has its own tax on top of it. What's interesting about this is people asking, well, why does Reynoldsburg care? Why do you care, Mr. Mayor? What's the point? A lot of it has to do with the biggest complaints that we get from local businesses in the community. What we hear about are staffing issues. That for some of our businesses, primarily service-based businesses, as well as some of our logistic areas that are within Reynoldsburg, like basically Bath and Body Works, Victoria's Secret, Dynalab, their issues are they're having trouble getting people actually connected into their businesses because of lack of transportation. Now, the rapid transit line is not going to solve all of those issues, but it does go a long way to actually making it a little bit better for them to actually get employees from wherever they live, be it in Reynoldsburg or out, to Reynoldsburg businesses. The reason why that's important to me is because that's how cities make their money. It's through income tax. The more workers, the more income tax, the more income tax, the more revenue the city has to go ahead and improve projects and dedicate to parks and things like that. Now, outside of that, into the Licking County side, which is where that main end of line thing would be across from the Department of Agriculture is part of the Etna Township thing. We have a partnership with them. They're called Joint Economic Development Deals. Townships are not allowed to charge an income tax, but if we have a deal through the city of Reynoldsburg, we actually take a percentage of that, and then a majority of the funds are split between the various school districts as well as Etna Township in itself. So if those facilities that are out there, be it facilities like the furniture store, Kohl's, and a couple of other ones, there's going to be, I can't remember, Black & Decker, I think is going to be one of the tool assembly lines out there and shipments. If those facilities do not have full capacity, which they have not had in quite some time, then we're losing out money. Now, this rapid transit line would take people all the way to that point by the Department of Agriculture, and then Licking County Transportation will then be able to provide shuttle services for there to the rest of those facilities or into the area closer to the new Intel Center. So from an economic standpoint, that is why it's there, because that will increase the amount of revenue that the city brings in comparison. Now, you don't have to vote for it. You can vote for it. It's completely up to you. But those are the reasons why, from an economic perspective, why the city of Reynoldsburg and why I am supporting this, because it will benefit the city overall, which those funds can then be used to benefit everybody else. The selfish reason of me, I used to live in Chicago and I liked being able to hop on a train and take it down and go see the Cubs game or something like that. For here, it would be very simple. I can see a Clippers game and not have to worry about where the parking is. I can work on my computer as I was going down there if I wanted to. I can go see a play, all sorts of different stuff. And it also allows those people from other parts of the community to come out to Reynoldsburg and see what we have to offer as well. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to say that next week we will have a representative from COTA on the show along with our other guest to answer some of those direct questions that you may have about what it looks like, how fast, and all of those other things. But if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free and ask. Otherwise, we're going to move on to the next topic. Any questions?
No.
All right, we do have our Flood Town Hall tonight. It's at the Reynoldsburg Library from 6 until probably somewhere between 7:30 and 8, depending on what kind of questions people have and things like that. But this is going to be a review of the information that they have found so far on some of the causes and potential solutions to the issues that the flooding has caused in Reynoldsburg for the last really 70, 80 years. So I'm looking forward to it. It is not going to be broadcast live because we can't figure out how to get the audio to work where everybody is going to be able to hear the questions and the responses. But the slide deck that's going to be shown, that will be on our website, hopefully tomorrow morning. But if you have an opportunity to come out, please do so. I will go ahead and review it next week as well. And for those of you that are already on our email blast system, we'll make sure and get that PowerPoint presentation out to you. Other cool things coming up. We've got Adult Prom, which is Saturday, September 14th from 6 to 9 at Eastside Brewing. That's why I had the 14th in my head. So you go Blues and Brews, and then we go to prom. That is $25, but it's for a scholarship fund for our Parks and Recreation Department to help support some of those kids that might need a little bit of financial help to participate in some of our really cool programs. So hope you can come on out. It is prom, so it is probably encouraged for you to dress up, but if you don't have to, I don't think anybody's going to worry too much. But come on, let's dress up. Let's have some fun with it. We also have Drama Kids on September 12th from 6 to 11-year-olds. And this Friday, weather depending, of course, we're going to have the Food Flicks and Fun with the Little Big Band of Columbus, as well as Kung Fu Panda will be there. If for some reason Mother Nature is not cooperative, check social media and probably the Parks and Rec weather line. We'll probably have an update in there. But I have a feeling, fingers crossed, that everything's going to be great and you're going to have no problems whatsoever enjoying all of that. And then on Sunday, I hope you can come out and register even the day of for the Heroes to Heroes 5K at Civic Park. You can race there and work off whatever it is that you get from the food trucks at the Food Flicks and Fun night. But you can volunteer if you don't want to run. You can run and do either the obstacle course or just the regular course. But it's always fun. It's for a good cause because, again, it's in memory of those that lost their lives on September 11th. So I hope you can come out and participate in that. We do have a little bit of an update on Bryce Park. The work is continuing. There was a kind of a little bit of an issue to make sure that utilities are taken care of. So whatever we put in doesn't impact any other utilities. So lawyers are working through all that. So that's a lot of fun. But the work is going to continue on that one. Happy to announce that Reynoldsburg has received a grant totaling around $70,000, a little bit over that, for LED lighting conversion in City Hall. So I'll be going to council on that next week. And so that's actually a fun thing because we can actually reduce and rearrange all the lighting in the rooms, and we'll have it where, you walk in the room, the light goes on, you leave the room, you don't, or that awkward moment where you're all sitting in a meeting and then the lights go out and then you have to do this to turn the lights back on. That's probably what we're going to do in here. The school district did it a number of years ago when I was on there, and it did lead to some significant savings as far as energy costs. So we're looking forward to that. I'm glad we're able to work with that grant. As far as development news, in addition to kind of some of the things we've talked about in the past, we do have a new restaurant coming to town. It is Las Margaritas. It is coming to 256. They have a couple of other locations in Central Ohio, one in Canal Winchester and one in Westerville. This will be located in the 256 shopping corridor, kind of behind where the Duchess gas station is. It's the restaurant block that's right behind there. Did have a little sad news. TGI Fridays on 256 is now closed. But from everything that I'm hearing, there's plenty of interest in that spot, but we will never know what's going to happen with it until literally they start putting in some paperwork. So we will keep you informed on what that is. My guess is they're going to take a look at all the restaurants in the general area, and they're going to find something that is either going to complement some of the other restaurants in the area or something that will direct compete with it. But what that is, don't know. We don't have any control over that one, but I will keep you informed. And we did get some new plans this week for those of you like myself who are suckers for the holidays. The return of Hallmark is going to be back. We're actually going to have a Hallmark store back in Reynoldsburg. It is going to be in 256 area, right pretty much down the road from where the old one was. This will be at in between Famous Footwear and the video game store. So there'll be the Hallmark store right in there. For me, it's the holiday stuff. My mom was really big on the Christmas ornaments and things of that nature. And of course, I changed the Christmas ornaments into Star Wars and Star Trek ornaments. So I've gotten my family addicted to that. So that's what I'm looking forward to for that one. But got a lot of good things coming up there, and who knows what's going to come in the next couple of weeks. As I mentioned, the last 2 weeks, we have a recreational marijuana facility that's actually going to be at their planning and zoning meeting tomorrow night for the area in 256 at the old basement doctor building. So that's where they're looking to go there. But happy to take any questions, comments on anything like that.
Actually, one just came in.
I could tell by the look on your face.
Do you know when the cement barricades on Mueller Drive connecting Taylor Woods and the new neighborhood together will be removed?
They will be removed once they feel that that neighborhood is complete. The reason why they're keeping them there is because of the issues with if traffic is to go through and in and out of that area. There's construction debris, not everything is cleaned up every night. And so they don't want to have a whole bunch of cars driving through over some of the nails and hammers and things that may necessarily be on the road. So once they know that they're at a point that that area is secure and clean enough, that's when they'll remove them. But my guess is it'll probably be pretty close to the finished development.
Is it right now?
All right. A couple of events coming up. We mentioned Diwali earlier, which we hope everybody can come out for. If you're a vendor and you want to join in that or be a sponsor in some way for that, the deadline is coming up. So reach out to our website and take a look at that and get that set up because that's just a few weeks from now. We also have the Saturday on the 14th at 10 a.m., the Ohio Fire Marshal Firemen's Festival. It's going to be, again, starting at 10 o'clock, you're going to have the touch a truck, canine fire dog training, fire safety training, and all sorts of other stuff there, including a helicopter landing and bounce houses. So come on out there and join that. And then two really cool things that I want to kind of put out there. One is the Reynoldsburg Library is going to have a national voter registration drive on Tuesday, September 17th from 3:30 to 6:30. We talked about with Danny O'Connor that, every election seems to be the most important election ever. Obviously, some people feel that others are more important than not. This is obviously a big one. So if you have not registered yet and you want to, this is your opportunity. You can go ahead and get registered. It will not take you long, and it's always a good thing to do to register to vote and then actually go out and do so. And if you're interested in more information about issue 1, which is the gerrymandering thing, which we've talked about on the show, if you're a longtime watcher on that one, that will be a town hall on Thursday, October 10th from 7 to 8 p.m. at the main Columbus Library. So they'll have one down there. I don't know if they're going to be taking that on the road to talk about that one. The next thing we have is the Market Off Main raffle winner. If you're watching, and I hope you are, make sure you come up and pick up your prizes because they are available. And then the next thing is we've got our community Halloween party coming up, and I've got a request. I need all my dinosaurs. Safe warning, Dinosaur Crossing. I want all of you out there that have those inflatable dinosaurs. We need you. Reach out to the city and let us know that you can make it. We want to try and have as many of them as possible for some cool surprises that we have at the community festival. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Got some cool prizes and things like that we're going to kind of work out. So it's going to be a lot of fun. A couple of cash drop events that are coming up. We have September 15th, we have the Special Olympics at the usual locations. And then on September 21st, the men's and women's basketball teams from Reynoldsburg will be out there trying to earn a little bit of extra money. So that way they have something out there for the upcoming season. And then thank you to all of you who have responded to our request for information about the 60th anniversary of the Tomato Festival. Lots of cool things that we want to do. Some things we already do that we have to figure out, okay, well, if you didn't know that, we got to do a better job of getting the word out. But then we're going to do some other cool things too. And we're probably, if there's interest, we're going to start a committee for people who are volunteers in the community that would like to say, hey, I would like to be part of this Tomato Festival thing and actually help out a little bit. Because this is not, every Tomato Festival is cool, but this is the 60th anniversary. This is a big one. So maybe this is an opportunity for you to kind of get in and join in on that one. So it should be a lot of fun on that. Also want to mention that this is Suicide Prevention Month in September. So if you are feeling any issues, please make sure you reach out to somebody. You are important. So make sure that you understand that and reach out to people that can help you. And any questions, comments so far? All right. So this weekend on social media, there were a couple of comments out there that I kind of figure I want to talk about. And I have no idea if any of you that made the comments on social media are watching today or not. But I wanted to kind of address a couple of things. There's always a lot of questions about why can't the city do X, why can't the city do Y, or I didn't know about this or I didn't know about that. My guess is if you're watching the show, you're pretty much well aware of everything that's going on in the city. If you're not watching the show, then I feel very sad for you, but you could because it's fun. But it's democracy is a participation sport. You have to do a little bit on the side. We can get you the information, we can provide it out there as best as we can, but at some point in time, you're going to have to take a little bit on that to figure out, okay, well, I like this or I don't like this, and I want to find out more. As we kind of talked about last week, the answers are never simple, and sometimes not everybody gets what they want. I don't sit up here today and look at what the, members of the community say that they would like to see in Reynoldsburg and go purposely, I'm going to do the exact opposite. That's not what I do. We try and hit a lot of different things that matter to a lot of different people. Sometimes they're very big issues on social media, like when it comes to restaurants. Believe me, I want restaurants just as much as everybody else does. There's just very limited control that a city has over what kind of restaurants will come in. That's why, the city took its fate into its own hands with the development on Main and Lancaster that's going to have a restaurant in there already has Brewster's, who is just aching to open up already, and I can tell that they're ready to do that. But that's something that's there. We're trying to do those things. As far as getting the information out there, if you have other suggestions outside of us doing the show, our social media presence, which in essence, this is a live press conference every week because I do take questions. Every question that is on there, I answer. And if it's one of those questions that comes in at the very end of it, I will usually go back on social media and then answer those questions at a later time. I do walk and talks. I will have meetings with you, and we can get into as many of the details as you want to about any number of city things. Some people only want about that much of information, but other people, they want the full thing. And I'm happy to provide that information at any point in time. Some of the things that are out there that I did see is, what about other communities dealing with housing in the same way? And you're right. I wish other communities would do things. I know Columbus obviously is. I know Whitehall is. I know that other communities are doing housing maybe at different levels, not necessarily specifically the affordable housing. But one person had made a comment about, what are we doing as a city to encourage these other businesses or other cities to do this similar things? And I will tell you, I've spoken at a number of different things with it. I've spoken at the MORPC, which is the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. I was on their housing committee. I have been a keynote speaker at the Ohio Chamber of Commerce talking about housing. And again, the Ohio Chamber of Commerce is very supportive of the housing initiatives Reynoldsburg has going for it, as well as other ones. And Ohio Chamber of Commerce is not it is not a liberal organization, to say the least. It is a very conservative movement. They understand the importance of housing and how that impacts all of the other things. I am also the chair of the Central Ohio Mayors and Managers Association, and we meet monthly, and we all pretty much sit around the table and we talk about how housing is impacting our communities. It just happens to be that in this particular moment in time, for this particular situation, we were able to find an opportunity to provide housing for people who are desperately needing it. That could be people that live in Reynoldsburg or throughout, and it will get them from suffering any kind of homelessness, and it will get them into a place that is stable, that is worthwhile, and it is going to be across the street, and it's going to look nice, and it's not going to be some horrible thing from the 1990s Cabrini Green of Chicago. It's not going to be like that. I'm looking forward to it being there. As soon as we have more details on what the building is or is not going to be like, we will share that. I know I put the renderings up the other week. I think it's a nice building, but again, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And then kind of combined with that is this really interesting thing that I saw over the weekend. One of the cities in Licking County, Newark, Ohio, when they return to council, they're going to be debating the criminalization of homelessness. The Supreme Court of the United States ruled that you can basically forcibly arrest those that are homeless, depending on the camp structure that they are in. And so they are going to be looking at legislation where those people who are without homes could actually be arrested and jailed because of that. If that's what you want, I'm not your guy. That's not going to happen while I'm here. There's other ways to deal with homelessness. There are issues out there that are going beyond the idea of making someone feel uncomfortable for the little limited amount of time that you may see them in a community. That's why we have social workers. That's why we work with the Community Shelter Board. That's why we work with other agencies to find ways to get the people that are out there that are homeless the help that they need. That's why I've made personal appeals to local community churches, that they are the eyes and ears. They know before I ever will about people that might potentially lose their homes. And it is a lot easier and much more cost efficient all the way around to keep someone in their home than it is to rehouse them after the fact. We live in a world right now where sometimes that isn't what everybody wants, and I get that. And you may disagree with my opinion on that one, but as far as when I'm sitting in this chair in this office, that is just something that's not going to happen. I believe in solving the problem, not just hiding it away. So that's all I got to say about that one. Next week, like I mentioned, we have a great guest. Franklin County Director of Public Health, Joe Mazzola, will be here because it is, right in the early stages of school. And so if you've got kids at school, probably someone in your house is sick already, because that's just how that works. That's the way it's going to be. But he will be joining us as well as a COTA representative to talk a little bit about Link Us. So we've got a big show next week. Any questions, comments, anything like that? All right, everybody, have a wonderful time. And if you have a inflatable dinosaur costume that you want to participate, let us know. If you want to know where to get an inflatable costume, you can't get one in Reynoldsburg because we have a furniture store instead of the Halloween store. So you'll have to go somewhere else for it, or you'll have to do Amazon. But it is a great opportunity. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do some cool decorations and things like that. But everybody else, please stay safe. Please stay respectful. And as always, please put your shopping carts away. We'll see you next week.